Let's chat about why South Africans are leaving South Africa for the UK. Why is this happening? Why are South Africans choosing to go to the UK? Well, firstly, we have higher employment rates. So the chances of finding a job is higher. However, with the cost of living crisis, it's extremely difficult to find a job. So the reality is that today it is more difficult than it used to be. 10 years ago, before Brexit, the job market was booming and it was very easy to find a job. There was a plethora of jobs available and you had more opportunities. But compared to where South Africans are, maybe the job prospects aren't that great. So having the UK or having a London job on your CV can be perceived to be good. It can look impressive, but the reality is that it is difficult to find a job. So you may be struggling for some time and have to go to lots of interviews, have to apply for many jobs. There's also the perceived higher standard of living in the UK. Now, I emphasize this word perceived. So you have things like your basic services, your transportation, which in the major cities is fantastic. Especially in central London, you're able to get out and about quite easily. However, there's a cost involved and it does take some time. So to get around different places can take you some time and you have to factor in the cost. You also have the convenience factor. So you have online shopping. So South Africa does have online shopping as well, but in the UK it's much more established and you're able to find a wide selection of products. So if that's important to you, you can order and you can find whatever you want very quickly. South Africans may be moving to the UK for a safer life. Even though the UK has crime rates which are increasing, relatively and compared to South Africa, it's still low. So moving to the UK with your family to give them a safer life is something that many people from South Africa consider. When you arrive in the UK, you have the reality that there is crime there. So you still need to be vigilant. You can't unlock your house or your car door and leave it open. You still have to have some common sense. You have lots of things like crime, petty crime or knife crime, which is increasing in the UK, and you have lots of antisocial behavior. So this is something to consider as well. The UK in general has more educational opportunities. Going to a university in the UK can be perceived to be more glamorous. So later on in your life, when you're applying for a job, having that on your CV can help you to progress further. Even though the education in South Africa, I've been told, is very good, it's all about perception here. And depending on what your child wants to study, they may have access to more opportunities. If we think about the major cities in the UK, they're a hub of entertainment, theatre. So you have more ability to network depending on the specific career. The healthcare in the UK used to be fantastic. I think it's still brilliant that it's still there, that it hasn't been privatized, but it's not as good as it used to be. But compared to South Africa, if you have to pay private medical care, the quality would be better than the national healthcare, but it's still very good if you are on a budget. You just have to accept that it's going to take a very long time to get to see a specialist. Even to see a GP is going to take you a long time. So you have to be prepared for this. And it may be a shock to your system. You may be thinking that you're going to a developed country, things should be running smoother, but things have declined. So that's the reality of the situation. Living in the UK means that you have access to other countries. You can travel to other countries. Now, after Brexit, you are no longer able to stay in these other countries for a prolonged time. So you have to check the amount of time you can spend in the country. Generally, it's 90 days, and you have to go through the procedure of applying for a visa for that particular country. But for short trips, it's fantastic. If you like to see different things and explore different places and new cultures, it's brilliant. You also have to factor in the cost. So even though you're going somewhere, you have to be on the lookout for special deals, as costs can start to mount up. The diversity in the UK is something which makes it very special, especially major cities like London. So you're able to experience different cultures, different foods, and this can make the city and your experience much more vibrant when you're being exposed to all different races, all different languages, and it can make your day-to-day living very interesting. Overall, I think many South Africans are moving to the UK because of future prospects. The UK is not as good as it used to be, but it still holds some weight in terms of its perception. So if you have a UK job, UK education, and you have that on your CV, that can help you wherever you want to travel later in the world, because it's this perceived notion that the UK is this fantastic place. However, you have to recognize and deal with the reality of the situation is that it has gone downhill, and you have to hold on to that future prospect. The ease of integration, I think, from South Africans to the UK is quite a straightforward process. Because English is the main language, it's very easy for you to communicate, and you will have opportunities there. It just means that you have to work harder to get those opportunities. There are many South Africans that find a South African community within the UK. There are many South African shops. So if you are feeling homesick, you can find the products from back home, and you can start to integrate into the society. The infrastructure is something which is better. You're able to get out and about and explore the city, but then again, you have to factor in the cost. So those are some of the good things about the UK, but you have to factor in some of the negatives. The negatives are the weather. Now, the weather is a real thing. It's gloomy. It rains for half the year, and you only have a few precious months of summer. So the weather will start to affect you if you are used to sunny weather. And look at things like taking vitamin D to help you, getting a UV light, which will help you. But that's something that you really have to consider. The weather can change all the time. Within the space of half an hour, it can go from sunny to raining to being windy. And this is something that you have to be really prepared for, physically with change of clothes and carrying an umbrella, but also mentally and having to accept that this weather is not good. Also, the friendliness. The UK in general, compared to South Africa, is not as friendly. So even in terms of customer service, you will have to understand that when you're getting bad customer service in the UK, it's something which is very, very common. And the friendliness of people in general is not there. People aren't really smiley or happy unless they're with their circle of friends and circle that they of people that they know. So in general, with strangers, they will think that you are a bit strange. If you are very friendly, the more north you go in the UK, is friendlier, I've found, and they are a bit more open and they make more small talk. If you're from South Africa and you're moving to the UK, you're going to miss affordable childcare. Childcare is extremely expensive because you have to pay the minimum wage, and so it can eat into a huge chunk of your salary. Also, rentals are extremely difficult to secure, especially in the major cities. It's not just enough having a job and putting down the deposit. It's not that simple. You'll have to go through bidding wars with other people to compete for the same place. So you may have to increase your price. And when you've secured the price, what you are getting in return is ridiculous. The places generally are much, much smaller. You'll be paying quite a lot of money for your utilities, your electricity, your gas. And so this is something to consider. You will miss the bigger spaces, the more space that you have, and it's something that you will have to get used to. You will also miss the lower cost of living. The cost of everything has increased in the UK to the point where it's just ridiculous. You will have to pay such high prices for your rent, for your food. So it's a good idea to budget and to maybe look for good deals. Go for supermarket specials, because sooner or later, the amount that you're spending will start to add up, and you will start to realize that I miss the low cost of living. So overall, the South Africans that I've met that have moved to the UK have had a difficult time in the beginning, but they got used to the country by integrating and enjoying the safety and the ease of life. Now, this is always relative depending on the individual and which part of both countries you are from. So let me know, what has been your experience going from South Africa to the UK?